Before the episode actually gets under the way, Anna and I wanted to share some tough news that we learned of today. For those of you who've been listening to our show for the last couple of years, you know that we had reached out and connected with Sound of Hockey podcast covering the Seattle Kraken. And we've had all three of the hosts join us, including Andy Aid, who was a Canucks fan before the Kraken were announced, but he's been, fully involved in the hockey scene with the Seattle Kraken. Prior to that, the Thunderbirds and what have you. But John Barr announced earlier today that just before the Kraken game on Saturday, Andy collapsed. Paramedics, they arrived within seconds and quickly started treating him for what they suspected to be a stroke. As of this recording, he is in the intensive care unit at Harborview Hospital down in the Seattle area. He is sedated, and while what has been shared by his family seems to share that he is sort of responding to commands, and that there won't be a very clear picture until he is brought us sedation and out of the coma. It is tough news, and we do encourage you to let Andy know that you're thinking of him. His family has set up a site on Caringbridge to provide updates, and there is a GoFundMe. As you could probably imagine, the medical bills that he has in front of them will be significant, and if that's something that you're able to, we strongly encourage you to support. Again, that's Andy Eade of the Sound of Hockey podcast. You can find him on Twitter at Andy Eade. That's EIDE. But Andy, know that Anna and I are thinking of you.
6.5%, was it? Is that what the current odds are of the Stanley Cup?
Well, and if you look at the round-by-round progression, the Stanley Cup favorite is the Vancouver Canucks.
What a time to be alive!
Talking you through every goalie controversy, scoring slump, and draft lottery bust, this is the C4 Podcast on CanucksHockeyBlog.com. Here they are, the best starting lineup we could afford under the salary cap. Chris, Matt, Anna, and Adam.
Welcome to another episode of the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com. I am Chris at Lightforce, joined virtually by my very accommodating and always ready to jump in a moment's notice when I am sick co-host, Anna Forsyth at eForsyth03. Welcome, Anna.
Thanks, Chris. Just very glad to see you. I'm glad that you're back, at least looking fighting fit. You're doing
feeling better,
chefing and all sorts of fun stuff. So, clearly you're a little better than you were last week.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about it with PJ, who, as you also shared, we really should consider him occasional co-host, because he's here all the time. He's actually recorded a show. He and I recorded a show at the Province Sun building way back when Matt wasn't around once. But I had a cold. When we last recorded 2 weeks ago, I was sick. I was fighting through this cold that Baby Force had brought home. And the following day, I didn't feel well. And maybe my body's just telling me I need to take a day. I needed to take a week. What ultimately occurred as I transitioned directly from cold into viral gastroenteritis, which I guess is a fancy way of saying stomach flu.
Yeah, it's not good.
And it was bad. I was putting chicken broth in me. It was about the only thing that I could tolerate, and even then, it was a toss-up as to whether it would be tossed up.
I did wonder how much you would share.
That's the pleasant part of the sharing. There's other TMI that could be also included. It was not a good experience. It from Tuesday to, probably the Tuesday, it was a week where I was kind of down and out. And then I've slowly started feeling better. It's just, I have no energy. Like my body is like telling me, what you think you were able to do previously, you're unable to do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely your body's telling you take it easy because, neither of us were feeling great a couple weeks ago. What I refer to as the snort episode.
Yeah,
but
make sure you listen to the end of that show if you haven't.
Yeah. But I bounced back fairly quickly, and that was almost the extent of my symptoms was like nasal sinus related, and yeah, your body was like, no.
I had that too. It's just I went from that directly into something more severe. So, I'm back in the land of the relatively healthy, and as you had mentioned, busy chefing. The Let Chris Cook hashtag is a real thing. In fact, you can go to letchriscook.com. I have a website.
Of course you do.
I know. Right, ideas. But I made this crispy chicken in a sort of a spicy sauce recipe today, and it was tasty. If you're curious what it looks like, I got details in the Nom Nom channel in our C4 Discord. You can check that out, discord.io/C4 podcast. And it also is the reason why you and I are recording a little bit later than we had originally scheduled, because I kept messaging you saying like, hey, I don't know if I'll be able to record at time. Hey, I'm sitting down and eating now. Hey, it's tasting so good. Can I not rush? And
can we just say you can also check out the Nom Nom channel for my tasty dinner that I made?
Oh, yes.
And I was done in time, just saying. But this is the rare occasion where I actually have made something good as well. So, yeah. But please come on there and you can vote on which is better.
Yeah, your orzo with onions, peas, tomatoes, zucchini, and halloumi dish, and my crispy chicken in a spicy sauce with a side of rice.
I don't like my chances, honestly, but mine was good. I was happy.
Yeah, it does. Speaking of looking good, the Vancouver Canucks are. One might argue they're a hot team. In fact, one of the hottest in the league right now, which is real awesome when the team has accepted that this season is well, what was it? When the question was posed to Mr. Rutherford, is the team considering tanking for Bernard? And he's like, what are you talking about? Based on our record, we're already
tanking, right? Major surgery incoming.
Yeah. Well,
captain, blah, blah, blah.
Relative to the comment, yeah, trading your captain, firing your coach, that's some major surgery. I don't necessarily think it was the surgery any of us had expected. Not that happening wasn't expected, just that we thought there was other procedures that will take place. That might happen in the offseason, I guess. But no, the Vancouver Canucks are riding the back of a return to form Thatcher Demko. It's amazing what this kid can do when healthy. And despite losing one recently, they have been winning games. In fact, finding ways to make sure that they get the 2 points, which is awesome when, yes, they're still theoretically able to make the playoffs and won't.
Technically, yes.
But elevating their draft pick it's this conflict. I like watching the team play well with confidence and win. I just wish that they did this earlier in the season, not, 3 seasons in a row where they turn it on near the end to almost squeak in and then start off with the, oh my goodness, woe is me at the beginning of the season. Anyway, we'll get into all that. Hockey culture, we're going to talk about that because heaven forbid we go an episode where hockey doesn't hockey itself. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's talk about the week that was. Kind of let off at the top here, but the Canucks are a hot team, huh? Are we looking at what this team should have been doing all along if they had a system, structure, a coach like talking? I'm not knocking Bruce. Bruce is my guy, but obviously something has changed. There are those who seem to suggest that the reason the Vancouver Canucks are doing so well now is that Bo Horvat isn't the captain, which
Yeah.
It's asinine. But despite, losing his production, they are getting it from elsewhere. You've got Petey and JT who seem to be on the same page and are
besties.
Playing a collaborative game on the penalty kill. It's weird what's happening with the Canucks.
Yeah. It is funny. Like, is this the hockey they should have been playing earlier? I mean, I guess what they should have done is injured OEL earlier. They should have promoted AHL guys earlier. I mean, there's no doubt about it that Tocchet has them playing better systems. But I do think there's no way Bruce was telling them to do what they did early in the season, where the forwards just spring the zone, abandon the defense. Was Bruce telling them to do that? Unlikely. Maybe change is good for them and the system seemed to be working, but there was so much that was somewhat out of their control.
Yeah. And when I talk about the Canucks being one of the hottest teams in the league, arguably they are. There are two teams in the last 10 with records of 8-2. One are the Vegas Golden Knights, who in the league are, 5th overall. This is a real hot team. And then the Vancouver Canucks, 25th overall. Slightly different placement in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, you're right. It's like a switch got flipped. And, whatever that switch happened to be, why does it have to happen in a season where, Connor Bedard's available? And even after him, was it 2 through 10?
Yeah.
Locks?
Certainly.
It's just
2 through 6 or 7 or maybe 8. Yeah. And I will say I know a lot of people say, yeah, but they're building. This is a long training camp. They're building for next season. Well, friend of the show, Frankie Grotto, kind of rubbished that theory. He said, it doesn't matter. You break for the summer and you're resetting again. You don't think that the teams in the playoffs are just oh, we wish we had been in a long training camp instead. They don't care, and they're gonna do so much better. For unless they are facing massive injuries, I really don't see that the momentum is going to carry over necessarily to October.
No. I mean, training camp continues. They're just going to keep all the players together all off season. They're going to be here in Vancouver doing bag skates.
It does seem to be that they're not really letting anyone go home. So it's you have to be here so early that you don't really get to go back, which, wouldn't be the most fun. But
looking at the week it was specifically, I mean, you and PJ had recorded. PJ sounded so defeated.
Yeah.
The Vancouver Canucks thought the best way to cheer him up was to beat the Dallas Stars 5-2. Guillaume Brisebois.
Yeah, Benning's boy. He finally scored.
Scored a goal. He had what was the longest streak of
between being drafted and scoring your first goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for Guillaume.
So,
I mean, got to be happy for him.
Oh yeah, I'm sure everyone was. That first goal coming in, and when you think about where the game was, the Vancouver Canucks had a 3-2 lead, but Jamie Benn scores late in that second period, and the Stars came out thinking, we're in it. This is the Canucks we're playing. Guillaume getting that goal early in the third, changed the dynamic considerably, and then JT put the icing on the cake late. The Vancouver Canucks played a good game against a reasonable opponent.
Yeah. What Dallas 6th or 7th at that point? I think they've slid a couple places since the game, but this is decent opposition. And Canucks are finding ways to win, which I guess in isolation is impressive. It's good, but as far as the overall picture, I'm not sure it moves the needle in a good way.
Yeah, I don't. Dallas might have been sixth. Like they're sitting in the league. They're sitting in ninth. But if we look at the division, they're leading the Central, and in the West, they're let's see here, third in the West. So very good team.
It's because the
And
Pacific is so strong, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is very much so. But Vancouver beat Dallas. Dallas had a couple boxes full of people.
Yep.
Local, owner and all that jazz. Anyhow, Canucks do what they need to do. This then leads us into their next game. This is a road trip down to, I had never seen the pictures of the rink I think I've watched a game that the Coyotes may have played, but I've never actually seen sort of like the wide angle. And it's like, I watched the Surrey Eagles play in a stadium that size. It's so surreal that the NHL is allowing the team to play there. I understand the circumstances require it. But no, Vancouver goes down to take on the Coyotes, and hot off their win against the Stars, I don't know, played to the Coyotes. Kuzmenko does what he does. He scores goals. This kid knows nothing more than how to put the puck in the net, especially when he's got fans, throwing him bananas. I think he's now wanting like hot dogs and other things too. He's put some
daily
recommendations
items
out there. Yeah. But, the Vancouver Canucks allowed the Coyotes to score the next three. And despite Petey trying to pull the team back into things, they lose, which,
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. The circumstances of the loss is funny because it's Arizona, it's in the Mullet Arena, and once again, Canucks have allowed a former Canuck to score a multi-goal game against them. I think Brad Richardson did the same, did not score for the Coyotes all season, and then scored twice in a game against the Canucks. So Travis Boyd, the redhead that came onto that broken team. I'm pretty sure Travis Boyd got traded and then everyone got COVID.
I don't remember, but I won't doubt you.
Yeah, I'm not sure he played a game before that, huge, where Canucks had to suspend games for 2 weeks. Yeah. So he hasn't got the best luck in the world, but yeah, had it against the Canucks on Thursday night.
Yeah. The loss, though, to the Coyotes is good if you happen to be on the Team Tank spectrum, because this is a team that the Vancouver Canucks are ahead of. And, those 2 points, those 2 clean points that they gave to the Coyotes bring them that much closer. The thing is that Vancouver felt that they were disrespected or something like that. So when they, continued their road trip into LA, despite trying to, give the Kings an opportunity to win. No, that's not how that works, because Petey doesn't, play that way. And the Vancouver Canucks find a way to win it in a shootout off of the, saves of Demko, stopping both Velarde and Moore, and goals from Kuzmenko and Miller. Speaking of former Canucks, Eddie scored a goal. His second of the season.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it is Canucks are pretty good at providing opportunities for former players to score against them, in dry spots. Good for Eddie. Apparently he seems super relaxed and happy. I honestly don't think he would still be playing if he was still in Vancouver. I think he would have been broken, either spiritually or physically, if he stayed. So I'm glad he's got a second lease of life in LA. Brock Besser scored, which, not been doing a ton of recently, so that's always good to see. I realized I wanted to talk about special teams, and I did not look up the special team stats from the LA game. How did they go?
Well, they got the goal he scored on the power play. They only had one power play and they scored from it. So
That's decent.
Game summary here. You got the Vancouver Canucks giving up the penalty shot, unsuccessful because hey, Thatcher Demko doesn't let anything in the net. You had Kyle Burrows just playing goon hockey with the only 2 penalties that got called against the Vancouver Canucks in the evening. The penalty kill did what it's been doing as of late. Actually, no, it didn't. It didn't score a goal.
Yeah, true. It wasn't a power kill this time. But yeah, I guess like for such a low penalty game, they did pretty good. But yeah, like in Arizona and Anaheim, it looked real bad. Like the fact, we'll get into the Anaheim game, but like the Coyotes, that's about the one thing they do well as special teams. Like it's not amazing, but it's a lot better than their league standing position would have you suspect.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you get 5 opportunities and you can't score 1, like that's a bad day at the office. And if you get 4 opportunities versus the worst penalty kill in the league, and you only score 1, that's not great either. Like, but that's why Canucks have 31 and Anaheim's 32.
Well, okay. So the Vancouver Canucks beat the Ducks 2-1. I think the Ducks had 4 shots through like the middle of the second?
Something like that. Yeah, it was low.
So they got 4 shots in the first. They had 8 in the second, and they had 6 in the third. So the Ducks got 18 shots on net. They scored a goal, coming in a third period, even strength. So the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill, again, doing its job, except for not scoring goals. The offense, however, peppered the Ducks, 17 in the first, 17 in the second, and it decided to take the third period off on 2 goals, one by JT Miller and another on the power play by Ellis Pettersson. And, I'm not going to say I really liked how the Vancouver Canucks played the Anaheim Ducks, except for the fact that the Ducks aren't a good team.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that the Vancouver Canucks were in that same position the Ducks were, because the Ducks have a much more advantageous opportunity at winning the Bedard sweepstakes.
For sure. I mean, that was a bad hockey game. Like, it wasn't fun to watch.
Do you think Colin Delia, had heated, those little hot pocket things like in his gloves and
not actual
locker,
hot pockets, not the edible ones.
No. Yeah, he wasn't snacking it, during a commercial break.
No,
but you know what I'm talking about, the little warm,
okay, sidebar on that. I didn't realize that he's also from Southern California. How do we have 2 goalies in our organization from Southern California?
It's a hockey hotbed.
Yeah. So I'm guessing he did need the hand warmers there. Like, that's mad. I don't think I've heard of any, I'm sure there are other players from California, but to have 2 goalies from Southern California in your team is weird. But anyway.
Well, I mean, they arrived under different circumstances, and I don't think anyone expected Delia to be the backup to Demko at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, Delia also missed out on a shutout opportunity. I don't know if I'm allowed to say those words, but will Canucks goalies ever get a shutout again?
No, never.
No, never. Right.
Not with the team that's in front of them.
No, and if they can't get it when OEL's not playing, then maybe they can't ever get it. And Myers either as well. So yeah, they missed their shot.
But JT Miller, as you've written in the rundown, is responding in a big way. He in the last 2 weeks, so in the time that I have been missing, he has been on the score sheet nearly every game. Yeah.
In the 4 games this week, he missed out, I think, in was it the Coyotes game? But either way, he's had a goal and assist every game at one. And, that's kind of been going on the last 2-3 weeks. So, I don't know what gives. You talked about speculation about
what gives? Fs. He gives Fs.
He gives Fs. But yeah, the speculation about Horvat being the problem, and listeners, I'm using huge air quotes here. Part of that was fueled by Miller's comments. And to be fair to JT Miller, I really don't think he did anything wrong this time. Like, all he said was that, like, they were, losing hockey games. It wasn't a fun place to be. Rook Tokic comes. They're doing better. They're playing better hockey. It's a more positive place to be. I really don't think he was saying Horvat was the problem.
No, I mean, he also referred to the distractions. And I mean, there were a lot, like, when's coach getting fired? When's your captain getting traded? Like, the Vancouver Canucks were leaking like a sieve.
Which they still will be, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, nothing he said is untrue. In fact, when I heard him say it, it's like, oh, okay. I mean, that makes sense, right? Like, it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. But I have sort of given some thought to JT and PD, finding whatever it is that needed to be found. And maybe it was, two professional hockey players knowing that the sort of in between, the captain isn't there, and they're both expected to fill that leadership void. And therefore, let's sit down and hash it out. Like, did that happen? Who knows? But could that have occurred? And, they found whatever common ground and, great. Like, who knows?
Maybe they went on do you remember that story from a few years ago about the Canucks going on like benders when they were having?
So they ended at the Roxy or whatever, but
what were they called? There was a name given to it, like turn-ups or something, or turn-up.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know what you're talking about, though.
It was, unfortunately, it was a story from my family's home country of Ireland when they had a GAA player come in and spend some time with them, and then he just made up a bunch of stories when he got back. Irish people love to talk, and it's not all true.
I was just going to suggest that maybe we'll learn more about what happened in an upcoming episode of Canucks and Cars. Like, they, throw JT and PD in a car and
I would love to
see what happens.
Because, did they show the part where they argue about who's driving? And
yeah, I mean, I think that would be a good episode. Whether or not the Canucks would actually air stuff like that, who knows? But
how did they decide that? Did they flip a coin?
I mean, there's people like, hey, there's a lot of content that the Vancouver Canucks do produce. How much of it hits the editing room floor that we never see the light of day? Haven't a clue. But I do know the team has recorded an entire season for posterity and decided to never air a second of it because the result at the end of the season was not the one that they ended up playing for. So if they're willing to go and spend that much money and not use any of that content, could you imagine what they were willing to leave on the, editing room floor, whether it's good or not?
I mean, speaking as someone who is a fan of a team, followed around by a documentary crew and not necessarily the best season, I'm kind of fine with that. These behind the scenes documentaries are really fascinating. I just don't like the light being shone too closely. The teams I'm a fan of, I kind of prefer it to be someone else under the microscope.
Yeah. Anywho, looking ahead here, the Vancouver Canucks continue their run by taking on the Golden Knights again. This time, however, at home, they take on the Sharks. Here at home, and then they're back on the road where they go down to Dallas for a game and then Chicago the night after, or, well, I guess it is the night after. For us, it's the afternoon after. The way the Vancouver Canucks are playing here, in the next 4 games, I think it's fair to expect, 3 wins, which I don't like saying, but
I mean, it's San Jose, it's Dallas, who they already beat, it's Chicago. Vegas, they're never going to win against Vegas, but and it's afternoon hockey. It's Canucks aren't great at it. We don't love.
No, that's true. I didn't really include it the afternoon part. Well, I mean, it's
not.
Stars
it's not,
is late afternoon.
Yeah,
the Chicago late after. It's on the road, right? So whatever.
Yes. Well, I will be at the San Jose game. A fact which I realized last night, so I'm glad I did check my ticket wallet and figure out where I'm supposed to be on any given day. So.
Yeah, that's good. Well, speaking of the Sharks, we're going to talk about them in a short moment. But before we do, you're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com.
He liked to say the F word.
Well, then get the here then. Okay, see ya.
Is going to have the F word on it.
I wish I could give you an explanation about it. I can't. You, out of here.
You said the F word, Dad.
You called me the F word.
If you hadn't heard, the San Jose Sharks found themselves in a position. Is that a fair way to outline it? They found themselves in a position. Like many teams this season, they had their Pride Night, and like many teams, elected to warm up in a Pride-themed jersey. If you've been listening to our show, you know that this has been an issue in some cases throughout the league. Many teams have elected to not actually even use their Pride jerseys this season in warm-up to avoid controversy, which I don't understand how Pride jerseys are controversial in the first place. But they are making these decisions because I think, in fairness to a team, they don't want to have themselves in a position where their players are making them have to defend their position. As we have seen, the NHL is more than happy to, when presented with a tough choice, take the far easier path of do nothing, ignore it, it will go away. And in the case of the San Jose Sharks, they had a player make it very clear that he was not willing to wear the jersey because, see, the jersey would be against his values. And while he loves all, his values, and more specifically his faith, told him that wearing the jersey would be a complete and utter annihilation of everything that is that he stood for, whether or not, you know, it's about supporting these people he loves every one of anyway. Like, I don't quite understand Reimer's position, but in fairness, I am not a man of faith. I don't go to church. I don't read a book written how many ever eons ago and rewritten many times over, and then look at that and say, well, it is everything. But I understand, and I'm not trying to make light of it, because I understand for some that is a deeply impactful, set of writings. But I just don't understand how what this book might suggest somehow means that wearing a jersey that supports people who have been persecuted, cast aside, to this day, is a problem.
Yeah. And I think there's two strands to this. And one is about hypocrisy, and the other one's about your job. Like, we can talk all day about the hypocrisy of James Reimer's version of Christianity and many others' version of Christianity that doesn't allow people to be them true selves and to support that notion, but, allows them to, wear military appreciation jerseys, even though I'm pretty sure God wasn't a big fan of war. Well, I guess it depends which part of the Bible you read. But, there's lots of contradictions within the Bible, and a lot of these people are just paying attention to what they want to pay attention to. Do they follow every rule in the Bible by the book? They don't. They selected that. And yeah, the other part is it's his job to wear that. As much as we have, said that the statement and hockey's for everyone is hollow, that it doesn't ring true, that's the NHL slogan, right? And part of that is LGBTQ plus inclusion. And San Jose Sharks, who are his employer, have said, we're doing Pride Night, wear your jerseys for warm-up, that's what we're doing. You get paid millions of dollars, just wear the jersey for 20 minutes. That's your job. I think that's part of being a hockey player, as part of being a sports person, is that on and off the rink, you stand for something that's not just yourself. And yeah, you might have to do things that aren't necessarily within your code of conduct, but sorry, that's your job.
You raise a good point, is that it is a sort of a selective application of what is written in the Bible. And there are a variety of I don't even know how to position it, but I'll just, try to generalize in the sense of controversial verses. One that I always remember is Timothy 2:12, which is, "But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence." So I'm going to be upset that a Pride jersey, violates this covenant that says, man and woman, no other iteration whatsoever. But, women, they should be able to be, to do everything that a man can do, and they should be able to speak up. Okay, why is it that Timothy 2:12 is ignored, and it's no longer valid? It's this selective application. And I'm not suggesting that, this verse didn't come from something and have meaning, but why is it that we read through this and apply some and not all? I can't explain it in any sense of the way, because I've never been a man of faith or a person of faith. It's something that is foreign to me. I don't quote scripture because it's not something that I know of. I have to look up things. This one I knew, and I had to Google because it's one that I will refer to. But the probably the best, description of this I saw was from Daniel Wagner, from, Pasitobulus. And he's got a thread on Twitter where he talks about how, he grew up in a world of faith. And for him, he found that he, in his position, evolved as he got to know people, interact with them. And, he was shocked when people would say, I don't feel comfortable, coming out to you. And when he would be like, well, why? I'm fully supportive, not realizing that, his position of, from faith cast a light on him that did not make for the situation to be comfortable enough to those that he was engaging with. And he said that so well. Like I was reading this, I'm like, wow, I don't have this perspective. I lack it because for me, like love is love. Like I remember, and again, I talk about this from an educational perspective, but in one of my history classes in college, where we were learning about the Roman Empire at the time, and Greek literature and what have you, and I mean, homosexuality existed during that era. I understand the good book had been written and probably re-edited many times over leading up to this. But there was this significant historical event that somehow, like there's, and for me, I'm like, okay, there's history here and love is love. Like it was like, and reading some of the literature from the time, like, and so for me, it's like,
yeah, I mean, same. Like, I just grew up around gay people. Like, when we had Brock McGillis on, he was talking about like the humanizing aspect of hockey. Like, I just there are no openly gay players in the NHL. If there was, would James Reimer be comfortable looking them in the eye and saying, like, sorry, dude, no. Like, if one of them was his teammates.
If you are that player, would you be comfortable enough coming out in front of anyone in that locker room? Because hockey culture dictates that you don't want to be the problem in the room.
Yeah. You don't, like, it's so team forward that it's just, like, don't stick out ever. Yeah, just, like, imagine, like, we know that there are gay players in the NHL. It's just, like, mathematically true. And how has the last 2 weeks made them feel, like, how has the last month made them feel, seeing, like, no matter if it's on their team or not, like, that, and what I want to say, like, go back to the thing about it's your job, like, that's the thing, like, I am pleased that the San Jose Sharks stuck to their messaging, about promoting LGBTQ inclusion throughout the game, but as a whole organization, there were no consequences for James Reimer.
Well, and
there's no consequences.
Expected any?
No, but I'm just saying there should be. Like, he didn't do his job, so don't let him do his job. And
there are some who are like, well, why is it that, this Pride Night should exclude people based on their beliefs? And like, okay, so what you say is my beliefs are more important than that person's. And I'd be willing to concede that I could very well be interpreted as saying the same thing, that I believe supporting the LGBTQ2+ community as being one that is inclusive and you should take part, and that could exclude you. But this is where I think people get confused. What you believe in is up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you should believe in. Yet, if your beliefs are not ones that are inclusive, which again, you're entitled to have your beliefs, then you're excluding yourself. That's a self-exclusion. Now, someone will say, oh, well, that's what Reimer did. He self-excluded himself. Well, you're right. He did. But he's trying to position that the inclusive nature should allow him to have his beliefs included in this. No. That's not how this works. You're excluding yourself. You've made it well known that your beliefs are more important than supporting everyone as a, self-professed lover of all people, right? Like, and what is it that is the issue here? A jersey that's colorful.
Yeah. And, just like, I didn't expect there to be consequences, but, like, that's pretty sad. Do you know what gets you scratched in the NHL? Turning up 2 minutes late for a team meeting. But what doesn't get you scratched is, like, refusing to do part of your job, which is promoting inclusion. And kind of going back to what you said about, like, personal beliefs are fine. And, like, back in the day, there used to be legal protections for people and they're slowly being eroded, where it's like, okay, you can believe that being gay is wrong, but you still have to, like, you can't refuse service to someone based on them being gay. You can't fire someone for being gay. You can believe that they, like, their way, them being their true, authentic self is wrong, but you can't be excluding people based on that. That was legally wrong. Like, and you've got to say that these things are connected. It's just like enabling all the bigots, right? It's like the lack of consequences for bigotry. Like, once you have someone in the highest office in the US behaving the way they do, then it just enables all the people below them saying it's okay.
Yeah. Luke Prokop actually shared a statement on social media. And for those that don't know, Luke is currently playing for, I think, the Seattle Thunderbirds.
I thought he played for Calgary. He got traded last season from one bad team to another, to a better team.
He's with the Seattle Thunderbirds, where he was previously with the Hitmen.
Maybe he's been traded twice.
Anyhow, he did come out a couple years ago as gay. But his perspective, I think, is one that best epitomizes sort of what I am having difficulty articulating. I'm not going to read the entire statement. Please go on Twitter. You can check it out. But in the second paragraph, he starts off by saying, everyone is entitled to their own set of beliefs, but I think it's important to recognize the difference between endorsing a community and respecting individuals within it. Pride nights are an essential step towards fostering greater acceptance and understanding in hockey, and I strongly believe that by prioritizing diversity and inclusion, we can create an environment where every player feels comfortable bringing their authentic selves to the game. As someone who aspires to play on an NHL team one day, I would want to enter the locker room knowing I can share all parts of my identity with my teammates.
Yeah.
So, what has James Reimer done? James Reimer has said, here is what I'm comfortable doing. I'm not concerned if that makes you uncomfortable. I have little concern as to the environment that places you in. I love you and everyone else. I love all people. But like Luke has outlined, the environment, why would he want to be placed in an environment where he is not able to be his authentic self?
Yeah, because it really is awful that there are closeted players in the NHL that don't feel they can be true and authentic, and you don't want Luke to be going into that environment. But if you are thinking, okay, well, what's the big deal? It's his job. He should be not concerned with whether he can talk about his love life or not, which is so missing the point, by the way. But you do realize that that's connected to the gay and trans people losing their lives. It's part of the same thing. And if you have athletes, people that look up to athletes, and they're saying, no, that's not okay by me, it just feeds into it.
I think, with everything that we've said, the real change will occur when a team, the players themselves, because we hear about how the players in the locker room, they need to be united, needs to speak up and suggest to the James Reimer of the world that they're the problem and they're not welcome in the room. Because again, this team first culture needs to be utilized in that sense. Because currently it's utilized the complete opposite. Don't be the one, don't be the problem. Don't come in, don't speak up. No, I think it needs reverse. This needs to come from the players. We have seen some forward progress. If we think back to, the bubble, when it sort of started to take off, where players themselves hey, this is what we believe in. And, here's what we're going to do about it. Well, I think that still needs to occur here. And again, this isn't about wearing, it is, it's about wearing, these jerseys, but I would say the same thing over Armed Forces Night. I don't agree with it, but like, do you see players refusing to wear that?
Yeah.
No. Even though I'm certain there are many who don't feel very supportive of that. They're in line with what you and I might feel. But,
Yeah, you only have to look at any Premier League fans will know that there is a Northern Irish player, James McLean, who refuses to wear a poppy. And it's to do with his relationship with the British Armed Forces, his family's relationship over years of the Troubles. He gets pelters every year, like he's the scum of the earth for refusing to do that. And fair play to him, he's stuck to his guns and sorry, bad choice of words there, but yeah, and I'm sure if any player refused to wear a military appreciation jersey, it just wouldn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But they would get, even questioning it would get a huge negative response.
Yeah. Well, and that, in fairness, James Reimer is getting a negative response. It's just not as significant as if someone didn't wear, the Armed Forces Night jersey or what have you.
We talked about the team mentality. By all accounts, the San Jose Sharks, the Philadelphia Flyers are actually doing some pretty good work and have a lot of players that believe in LGBTQ inclusion very passionately. But that story's been trumped by the negative one.
Yeah.
I do think there is a positive story that we can pull out here. LA had their Pride Night when the Canucks went into town, and I was quite surprised to see, but in a very positive way, friend of the show, Mio Lindsay, was dropping the puck on Pride Night. So if you don't know Mio, great artist. She's done a lot of Pride jerseys, including the Canucks one from last year. And she also designed our podcast logo. So yeah, it was very cool to see her because she actually lives in Sweden. So it's cool to see her.
If you only listen to our show and podcast apps, it's not updated yet, but social media and Discord, it's updated.
And it looks very cool. So yeah, she's a great artist. It's very cool that she actually got to see her work in real life. But yeah, we want more stories like that. The San Jose Sharks Pride jersey is awesome. It's so cool. And I love the artist saying that she did the shark and trans colors because they're the most persecuted community. That should be the only thing that we have to talk about, and sadly it's not.
Yeah. There might be a day where our podcast is not having to talk about hockey culture in such negative light.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not we will still be around come then.
We dream of the day.
A bigger question, but
it's something you got to keep talking about, keep working for, right? Even if it seems so far off.
Yeah. Anywho, here we are at the end of a show. One is to which I returned. I'm still feeling good about the meal I cooked. Again, I've gone an hour now and things are still looking good. I'm seeing comments come in about the knives. They need to be sharper and what have you, which is good feedback because, I need to know this and learn this and what have you, and I will. It's going to be something more practice. I will be able to perfect, but I will keep everyone in touch with the Let Chris Cook campaign in Nom Nom, which again, I told you is in our Discord LSC4 podcast. I guess you could probably follow that on Twitter too, the hashtag, so definitely use it. But speaking of following on Twitter, at the C4 podcast is us there. Buy me a coffee. If you wanted to support our show, head to support.c4podcast.com. It allows you to either send a few bucks our way, either on a one-off basis or on a recurring basis. It just helps us keep this podcast going. All the ads you've heard to this point, we don't get a penny. Not that pennies exist in Canada anymore, but we don't even get a penny from them. They simply cover the cost of the hosting agreement that we have with our network and the promotional side of things, which I don't entirely know how much they promote us. So the costs that we incur are covered based on our generous supporters, which again, support.c4podcast.com allows you to get set up. And at some point in time upcoming, the C4 Book Club will be a thing. I know we've continued to talk about it. I got to create the channel in Discord where we will talk about Fighter, which have you read cover to cover yet? I've started. I have yet to finish. It's been a slow go.
Yeah, I've finished Fighter.
It's Aaron Volpatti's book for anyone.
Yeah, friend of the show, Aaron Volpatti. I set myself a reading challenge of 3 books a month, and in January I read 6. But that's because I spent 40 hours on a plane in January. So
see, if I had that much time on a plane, I probably would have finished at least Fighter.
Yeah. The first 2/3 of it definitely goes quicker than the last third. But yeah, maybe we'll be just for the different speeds of reader. Maybe we'll just throw a channel and start a discussion, and we can sort of keep coming back to it. But yeah, Discord is the place to go for that.
Yeah. Anywho, what final words of wisdom do you have for all of our listeners this week there, Anna?
I mean, based on what we talked about at the top of the show and the bottom of the show, I think the only things I have to say are be kind.
Yes, be kind, think happy thoughts. Applicable to both scenarios, but second one, I wish we could simply have happy thoughts about it all. But I think it's important that we share our thoughts and speak up when we see exclusionary activities taking place. But on behalf of Anna, A403, myself, Chris at Lightforce, this is the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Full Press Coverage Network and CanucksHockeyBlog.com. And by the way, we out.